Well, hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Thursday, the 15th day of February, 2024. Well, yesterday morning, I don't know, late morning, I thought I was going to wake up to snow. It did this. I don't know if you can see that. There's another one. I don't know if you how well you can see that. Maybe that's better there. Yeah, that's what it looks like outside right now. Is snow, snow, snow. But it's supposed to get into the low 40s today, and we're supposed to get a little rain, so it's going to melt. And we'll have a wet, soppy mess. So we'll see. But then it's supposed to snow again. So tonight, life on the high desert. Anyway, let's take a look at the runes to get us started. The Elder Futhark rune will be the as above side of things on the significators, and then the Geomancy rune will be the below side of things. So we'll get kind of a overview here to start us out with, and then we'll take 3 cards and see what we can find as far as details. Well, we have Ansus again today. So we had that on Monday. Ansus is Odin's rune. It's eloquence. It's spiritual communication or spirit communication. It's clarity, and basically, or a divine message. It's higher self. It's that type of an energy. I'm looking at today's. With the 15th day, we have a 6 numerology, so it's not really going to reinforce that necessarily, other than maybe. Extending yourself to other people who are in need. Maybe I guess you could say that could align with it that way, possibly. But essentially, you know, we're talking about the divinity within, and speaking with that instead of getting into the ego version of the conversation that you need to have with somebody today. But let's take a look at the Geomancy runes. Now, on Monday we had Acquisidio. So, you know, we gained on Monday by that type of higher awareness and communication with spirit, letting spirit inform your reactions and your perceptions, essentially. Let's put these in the order of fire, air, water, and earth. There's air and water. There's earth. There's fire. So, so we're looking at Rubius. Is that Rubius? I believe so. Let me get it out of here. You've got Rubius and you've got Albus, which is its complement. But yeah, it's Rubius. So whereas on Monday we were gaining by embracing the energy of Ansus, here it's kind of extremes. So with Ansus, again, Odin's rune, or divine clarity, divinity within, higher awareness. Here you have the misuse of force. So, generally speaking, how I interpret the runes this way is that it's not the struggle within. I mean, it can be the struggle within, where you want to do something that's really, really self-agenda oriented, where you don't really care about what the outcome is for other people. And then you struggle, though higher awareness is saying, yeah, but do you really want to do that? So you could experience something like that today. So we'll just keep that in mind. But oftentimes what I think it ends up happening is you're having to deal with somebody who's trying to undermine you today, and you need to look at it from the place of higher clarity, so that you don't get into the muck of the ego, where you're having to deal with things on that person's level. In other words, you don't want to stoop to that person's level. So let's take a look at it from that perspective. But if it looks like from the cards that it's an inner struggle, then we'll talk about it that way. So, oops, something just came up in front of my screen here. What is it? Oh, okay, we'll just close that out. I touched the mouse with my hand, and when I was shuffling, and it opened up the notes program on my computer here. I've already done a whole bunch of shuffling here already this morning, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time doing that. But if this is the struggle within, I mean, that's a really difficult struggle to have, isn't it? Where it's almost like opposites. Well, we have two cards from the court, one from wands, one from swords, and then we have the world. Um, uh, let me think here. I'm thinking that what I want to do here is we may need another card. Right now, we've got two guys that are not talking to one another, so they're not going to see things in the same way. And then we have the world. Now, the thing about the court is it can either apply to the individuals on the card. So an older man in authority, if you're an older person in authority, it doesn't necessarily have to be a man. It could be a woman as well. But generally speaking, if you're looking at it specifically and reading the cards literally, then it would be an older man in authority. But it could be a woman that's just very powerful. And maybe in terms of her own polarity, the projective side of self is a little stronger than the receptive side. So it could be that as well. Otherwise, we're looking at, let's just go ahead and start with the King of Wands. The King of Wands is an authority figure, obviously older man, knowledgeable, wise counselor. He can be a warrior, he can be cruel, he can be bigoted, but he can also be a wise mentor. He doesn't look you in the eye. Even the King of Swords generally looks you in the eye, but his sword's askew, so maybe honest, maybe not. But here you have the fire elemental, the salamander. There you have the life still growing from the staff. That's a general theme with wands. There's still life within that continues to grow and continues to create. The energy is still there for that. You see the salamander in an Ouroboros fashion here. You see the lion here. You see the salamanders up here in the aura. And what that means is they're coming around. It's a feeling like infinity, coming full circle, completion. The energy is contained. Maybe you could look at it that way. But you're talking about the fire element. And so creativity, motivation, opportunities, the spark of life, essentially. And, you see a lot of reds and oranges and yellows here against a blue background, blue sky, basically. You can't really see anything behind him. So if there's, if this is inside a castle, it could be outside, but you can't really tell either way where he is. So he's almost like an enigma unto himself. And then let's look at the King of Swords. Now, he's not looking toward the past. You're not seeing him from the side. You're looking, because even with him, if you were looking at him, you can kind of see his head is turned even further. So he's looking backwards to the past. And here you have this guy here, this king. Now you see him. He's out in nature, essentially. He's not within a castle. You see, if this were Odin, you see Hugin and Munin flying above the ravens. You see some clouds there. But unlike the Queen of Swords, who's holding one hand out and the sword straight up and down, and it's almost like she's beckoning people to come toward her. The King of Swords is just looking right at you. You see the butterflies and the moons on the back of his throne there. And but what you're also seeing, you're seeing the red cloak of authority and all of that. But the sword is not straight up and down. So when that's not straight up and down, he may not be the kind of guy that you can really trust that well. He's too clever for that. He's analytical. He's, again, an authority figure, an older man, powerful, logical. He's clearly the boss. But he's going to decide what's true and what isn't, okay? It's not going to be a fundamental truth that's coming from spirit the way you see with the queen, because her sword is completely up and down. It's not moving anywhere. It's right there. And so she's demanding honesty But that's going to be his to decide, essentially, how honest things are and whether or not he's going to be an honest broker. So before I move on to the world, let's talk about these two guys. You've got a couple different dichotomies going here. You could, in a sense, think maybe that the King of Wands might reflect Rubius or a misuse of force, but it could also happen with the King of Swords, especially if he's not going to be completely honest with you. But if this guy's not going to look you in the eye, well, how honest can you, in other words, how well can you trust him as well? So the misuse of force may have to do with the kings today. And that's why I say maybe we need another card. In fact, let's just go ahead and take one. Just to get one more thing in there before we get to the world, because with the world, you're talking about completion and synthesis and reward. So I don't think you necessarily want to have that today, especially with Ansu's here, and the whole idea of higher awareness informing everything you do, and speaking with eloquence. Well, that implies also honesty, and I don't know that we can necessarily trust the kings to do that. Maybe. I mean, theoretically you can, but so often authority creates their own rules, don't they? And everyone else just has to go along with it, Well, maybe not. Maybe it's time that we said to authority, well, you want to be an honest broker with us, then fine. But if not, then I don't know. Maybe we need to just sort of figure this out on our own. Let's take another card. I'm going to take the 13th one. Well, maybe I'm going to take the 13th one. So if we're going to talk about the qualities therein, and we can't ignore the elements that these suits represent, we're looking at will with fire and intellect with swords. What's missing when you don't see the water element, where's the compassion? Where's the empathy? Okay, this is all masculine energy, all right, or projective energy with wands and swords. The earth element, which would be pentacles, and the water element, which would be cups, there's where you have your receptive energy. And there you see compassion and love and grounding and tradition and loyalty and family, all of those things in those two suits, with those two elements. But here we have temperance to kind of find a way to temper the energy, the powerful energy of the two kings. This is the 14th card from the major arcana, and so you're looking at a 5 numerology or change, protection. It means the pentagram, all elements in balance. And that's really what we're looking at when we talk about temperance. We're talking about balance and moderation. It's blending fire with water. You see the glyph for fire here. You see the red wings. You see the emanations coming off of the head of the angel here. You see a sun disk on right here in the center of his. Well, it's probably a headband, but you don't see that. You just see the sun right there, the sun disk. So there's a lot of fire in here. Obviously, there's water to temper the fire, to cool the fire down. And even with the King of Swords, even with that being air, the fire of your speech, right? So you have to be careful how you talk today, especially if you're dealing with people that might be trying to undermine you in any way or have some kind of misuse of force. Rubius is, let me see if I can get another idea here on Rubius. Let me see if I have something. I mean, you're talking evil outcomes, fiery temper. So again, having what's missing here is, although you're going to see it in the world card, excuse me, what's missing is the water part of this, and what we need is temperance to contain the power, the unleashed power of both the will and the intellect that could maybe try to convince you of things that aren't true, for example, to try to control the narrative, to try to control the situation. That's why I have this strong feeling that that the kings are really going to fall under the influence of Rubius here today. Not particularly trustworthy all the time. I mean, sometimes they can be, but I'm always bothered with the King of Sword, the fact that the sword is not straight up and down here. But here you see the path going up between two mountain peaks. You see the sun rising between that. Again, walking the path of moderation, walking the path of balance. So I want to take and cover those two cards with temperance. In fact, I'll just cover it as a horizontal. So it's going to look like this when I do the picture of it, and with the write up, because I always do a picture of the reading. It's going to look like this. All right. Or something akin to it. I'll probably bring it down a little lower, but let's cover the two kings with the idea of temperance here and make that the guiding influence. Again, it's coming from the holy guardian angel, and what's that? That's your higher self. And so we can look at the angel as that. And so I think that how you deal with people today, if this is a choice within you to try to control a situation that you probably shouldn't be trying to control, you're not listening to other people, maybe you've decided, oh no, this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to be in charge of everything. If you are the person who is in charge of everything, and it's not simply a choice to take over things, you have to be careful how you manage that, how you manage the supervisor within or the leader within, how you manage all of that. And you have to approach things in terms of a little bit better balance, controlling the will. You know, this makes it look like he's not listening to anyone. And realistically, it's just, in a sense, it's the way the picture is drawn, the scene is drawn. But if you were to try to see him from the front, he's still looking in another direction. He's not going to look right at you. So he doesn't really care necessarily, you know, especially with Rubius. The powers that be don't really care what the others have to say. And so if that's you have to, in other words, you need to care, essentially. You can't just simply make it all about you, and you're ultimately the leader or the supervisor is going to have the final say, obviously, but not without hearing the input from other people. All right. Because with Ansu's, you know, the idea, I mean, it's the fourth rune, so you're looking at a different kind of foundation or structure than what is physical reality. You're getting that foundation and that structure from higher awareness. And so the eloquence with which you need to speak to others today needs to be there. It needs to resonate with them. And in that regard, then they're maybe be a little more willing, a little happier to follow your lead. You know, if you listen to everybody and you say, well, you know, maybe we can, you know, incorporate some of this or that, but overall, I think we still need to go in this direction. At least if people feel heard, then it's not the power for the sake of power that's controlling everything. You see what I'm saying? And I don't know, we may need a fourth card, or rather a fifth card. Here we have the world. Now you see the reflections essentially of the fixed signs of the zodiac around here, you know, but there's also elements attached to them, and so you're looking at everything in balance. You come full circle. You see the lemniscates, the figure eights here. You're basically coming full circle again. Everything is in a constant cycle, because once you reach here, you know, if you look at the cards as the major arcana cards as soul archetype cards, and you look at the Fool's journey that's expressed with all of them, here's the end. And so now you leave this realm, you make your decision to come back to this realm maybe, and you start the Fool's journey all over again. But here, instead of one wand, like you see in the Magician, he's in the as above so below stance with the one wand being held up towards spirit. This is the same wand here. You see the Fool essentially, again, in more of a female type of a form. We didn't know when the Fool takes its leap for sure what gender it's going to be when it comes through into the body. But then we know, but until then we don't know. The Fool may know, but maybe the contract's been made. I'm going to be a man. I'm going to be a woman. But here it's a decidedly more female form. But you've come through it all, and you've realized the things that you need to realize. And I think, to me, the fixed aspects of the zodiac here, I think those representations means that you've come into your own, essentially, at the end of it all. This is what I've learned. This is who I am. And she's happy to just be suspended in midair there, and with two wands, holding two wands. She's got a drape around her. But it's the idea that this was the life that was lived. These were the choices that were made. And if you don't want to look at it in terms of the end of your life, it's just maybe the end of a situation here that you're dealing with. Again, whatever authority you need to assert here, it can't be one that is going to be harmful to other people, or is going to take advantage of other people. And you can look at, it doesn't have to necessarily be authority here that's agreed upon, because all too often the people in the kingdom don't agree to the king being the king. It just happens, right? They either take over the kingdom and kill the other king, and now they assume the throne, essentially. So we don't know how they got there, right? So that's still an unknown. But at the same time, if it's how you want to express authority today in what you're doing, maybe it comes down to the choices that you make. Maybe you decide, I can do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not going to ask other people that could be impacted by it, right? And I'm going to do what I want. So you're exercising that inner authority, but maybe it's in a Rubius fashion where it indeed takes advantage of other people. You get some people in work situations that will do that, where they decide they want control. They want to be the one the boss sees as the one who's the true leader here, that is responsible for the positive outcome. But yet they don't stop to think about everybody else that's involved. And so they step over other people to get that attention from the boss. So that would be an example of what not to do today, of how not to employ onsus in your higher awareness, in other words, into the decisions you make about how you're going to integrate with others in a way that doesn't express authority, in a way that's not fair, that's not just, that's not keeping will in balance with emotion here. You want the water, in other words, the empathy, the compassion, the understanding to quell the fire that the will has, that energy of the will. That would be fire, is the energy of that will, and trying to keep that will under control so that you make a better decision, so that you're not running roughshod over people, because Rubius is a very evil influence. It's literally ego run amok at the expense of other people. You see that with criminals. You see that with politicians who lie and lie and lie and lie, and then they manage to get themselves into office, and it's just like you discover, like, oh my God, who did I just vote for? It's one of those kinds of things. It's the sociopath. It's the psychopath, but more so the sociopath who's going to control things and going to do it in a way that you're not going to realize until it's too late. It's that type of energy. And so when you see this dichotomy, if that's the struggle you're having, please understand that it might get you what you want temporarily, but in the long run, you won't manifest this whole idea of synthesis and reward. You won't have the reward. Instead, you're going to be someone no one trusts, and people know that you're going to undermine them to get what you want. And so either this is happening today and you have someone in authority over you that's trying to do that, or someone trying to take authority from the rest of you, everybody else who's trying to do that, or this is the battle within. And the key to it all is the Temperance card. is to make whatever decisions that you have to make in a moderate way, in a way that's not running headlong into disaster, essentially, with other people. Or with the situation itself, letting the will, I want, get out ahead of you to where you can't control it and you can't see the value of getting the opinions of other people. In other words, the two king cards, although I don't think so, but it's possible that they could be people you're going to get advice. And they maybe see it from a couple different perspectives, If you go to an attorney firm, you might have a couple attorneys in there that have different, ultimately see it the law the same way, but might have different focuses for it. So it could be something like that too, but I don't think so. That might be an outlier here for somebody that this might apply to. But I really think that how we embrace the authority within, how we express it, matters. And we have to do it in a way that balances water with fire, essentially. Water has to, in other words, understanding and compassion, you can be harsh in your judgment, but then if you allow the water element to influence, then you're thinking, well, how did that person get there? How, if you're trying to make a decision about somebody that has done something that isn't right, but maybe you can step back and say, well, how did that person get there? What's happening in their life that's causing them to behave that way, especially if it's new behavior? Are they upset about something? Is something horrible happening in their life that they're just out of control about? Their emotions are out of control and they're reacting in a way that's unexpected. You can judge them harshly, which both kings might do. But then temperance comes in and says, well, maybe what's behind all this? Maybe you can show some compassion instead of harsh judgment today and try to help this person. Maybe they just don't know how to ask and they're just all freaked out about something, and when you do that, you start to create a new structure, a new foundation for yourself that brings success and reward and completion to things. In other words, the situation resolves itself in a way that doesn't end everything, right? The other person realizes, hey, I'm not alone. I might feel vulnerable, and that's why I'm acting this way. But this person really cares about me and wants to help, wants to at least listen to what I'm going through. And maybe that's all that person needs, right? But if you act the way the kings might act, with authority and not really paying attention and having their own agenda and not really listening, but because they're all caught up in their own male authority business, right? That maybe they don't see that. Maybe they don't offer that. Whereas temperance says, the holy guardian angel here, the higher self says, wait a minute, think before you speak. Think about the ramifications of what you're saying before you say it. Don't get caught out there on a limb that you can't come back from, and you have to stay with it and hang in there when you shouldn't, when you should drop resistance and say, okay, I think I don't really understand what's going on here. So can we start over and talk this out a little bit more so I have a better picture of things? And there's the clarity that Ansus is talking about, having that clarity and not jumping to conclusions and judging a situation in a way that is more about how you see things than what's actually happening. You need that bigger picture, in other words, to be able to make the best decision possible. And when you do that, then you come full circle and you're ready to start again, and you've built that foundation based on the type of based on compassion and love and understanding found in temperance. If it begins there, it makes the other things, in other words, easier to deal with. You're less likely to jump to conclusions. You're less likely to judge something harshly without having all the facts. If you begin from that receptive presence that the water element gives you, what temperance is talking about here, balancing will with emotion, with the receptive presence within. So this is an interesting one. I thought Mondays was an interesting way to start the week, but in a sense, we're continuing that theme here of Ansus and letting higher awareness guide, your perceptions, your judgments, your decisions, your actions, all of that. So you're not getting caught up in something that keeps the fire burning when it doesn't need to, in other words, you see. So interesting readings both days. I think they're connecting to one another through Ansus, but here things seem to be a little more dire, as opposed to, you'll gain more if you speak eloquently. You'll gain more if you don't judge people. You'll gain more if you allow higher awareness to imbue everything that you think, feel, say, all of that, right? You'll come out in a better position in the long run. It's almost like this card belonged on Monday, because when you do that, you have this completion, the synthesis, the reward, the restructuring of things that you've grown into, basically. This is the legacy you leave, in other words, instead of one of harshness or judgment, or trying to get over on people and see life from only your perspective. Because in the end, that's probably going to harm people as you do that, right? It's not going to be something, people are going to look at you and they're not going to trust you. They're going to say, oh, okay, I don't want to get involved with that person, because I know what's going to happen. I'm not going to be heard. What I want isn't going to matter. I'm not even going to be allowed a voice. So they're just going to decide, and that's going to be it. The end of story. So it's the separation between power and the rest of us that shouldn't be there. The power should be it should be expressing our voices, not the other way around. So, it's not a good thing. They stack the deck in their favor, essentially. And it can be a really evil influence when it manifests. And I think that I think Monday showed us how we can gain from not living that way, not interacting with others that way, by interacting from a more higher awareness perspective. And I think today it's driving it home. So something could be happening again, either within you, where you're having to kind of deal with those two energies within. And if so, maybe it just has to do with how you express authority or leadership, and whether or not you're listening to other people, and whether or not you can sort of quench the fires within a little bit, and show some compassion and mercy and love in what you do. And when you do it, you come full circle, and you've established yourself as that sort of person. That's your foundation. That's what you have to offer others. And I think you come out in a much better place than the other way. So anyhow, plus you got a little lesson in crossing things in a tarot reading, where you look at crossing sort of means what's stopping you, what's preventing something from happening, what's interfering, maybe what is a challenge. And expressing authority these days, it is a challenge, and how you do it matters. And so I think that temperance is the way that we do that. Now, if you look at this as a 5 energy, you've got 21 here, which is 2 and 1 is 3, 5 and 3 is 8, plus 4 is 12, and so we come down to another 3. Last Mondays we had an 8 numerology for that day. 8 and 3 is 11. So for the whole week we have the master number 11 of awakening and enlightenment. So that's kind of interesting. I'll be sure to put that when I do the write-up for this on the blog over at Stepping Aside. I'll be sure to mention that. In fact, let me just kind of jot that down a little bit here. So we've got 5 plus 3 equals 8. Now there's no numbers associated with the court, so I can't add anything there. And then plus 4 is 12. 8 and 4 is 12 equal, and 12 that reduces to 3. And then we look at the 4 numerology. Oh, I'm sorry. The 4 numerology, that's 7. That's 7. I'm sorry. That wasn't right. So that's not right. That's not right at all. See, this is what happens when I do this stuff in my head every single time. Did I do that right? So we've got let's see, 14 is 5 and 3 is 8 plus 4 is 12 is 3 plus the 8. Oh no, that's right. I was adding the 8 plus the 8 from last time. That is 11. No, I'm right. Well, you know how it goes. I didn't add the other one from Monday. Well, I'll do this again just to make sure, but for the week, awaken to it, enlightenment. That's definitely. No, see, I went and I did no, that is right. I'll figure it out. Anyway, forget about the numerology other than the one for today. We have a 3 for today. We'll say that. Well, and we had an 8 for Monday, so 8 and 3 is 11. So I am right. Well, anyway. It's when I try to do things on other pieces of paper and I don't have enough room. It's like, okay, I'm putting things everywhere and it's not in a line and, well, anyway. It's funny when we homeschooled our kids, one quick thing, when we homeschooled our kids, we had them take a curriculum from this alternative place that for a little while that was kind of interesting. It was and one of the things I said to the teacher that was evaluating some of the work they were doing, I says, yes, my boys are both calculator dependent. And and they thought that was funny. It's like, well, they can't add in their head. Well, they can, but they'd rather use a calculator. They can do it much more quickly. And so they thought that was kind of funny. So now I guess mom has become calculator dependent in her old age. So anyway, that's it. I think that's it. We did it. And we did it with 4 cards. That's pretty cool. Anyway, thanks for watching. And look for the stuff to come out on the blog over at Stepping Aside. The address there is imsteppingaside.com. Comes out at the midnight hour on Sundays. The forecasts, the correspondences for work and magic for the week, an astrological overview. I'm still doing the Exploring Tarot series, although it's coming to an end here shortly. And so that'll come up on Sunday night in the midnight hour, or Sunday morning in the midnight hour. And if you want to check out the stuff over on Substack, Medium, and Patreon, you can do that too. Links are again below the video here. Click on more. Just a box that opens and you'll see stuff, including the address for the blog. So, and the blog's called Stepping Aside, and basically I'm losing my voice here. So, well, we went a little long, but that's okay. But hang in there for the weekend and subscribe if you haven't. I'd love you to do that, and come back again on Monday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Maybe we will have another Monday and Thursday readings that dovetail together. I don't know. But I think this week, we are looking at we're looking at higher awareness between Ansus on both days and the 11 overall numerology, which I'm pretty sure that it is. But again, I'll do my math before I write it up just to be sure. So check that if you want to and see, but I think that's what it is. Anyway, sometimes you just have to walk away from the ego, and what's manifesting these days. You just got to walk away from it. It seems to be what's happening in terms of the split path we're on. One seems to be ego-based and one seems to be higher awareness-based. And I think that for me anyway, being on the higher awareness side feels a whole lot better than being on the other side. So think about it. See how that feels to you. And, if you're dealing with some authority, an authority figure that's not being an honest broker, or you're the one that's kind of feeling challenged that way, remember that the only way this really works is if we don't do that, and we think about things from a higher perspective, where soul is guiding the experience instead of, being reacting all over the place and seeing how much it can get us in the long run, right? It can't be about that. And yet, all too often these days, it seems like that's what's going on. So anyway, however this fits for you, I hope you can find something out of it. And we'll see you again on Monday. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.